Okay, looks like we are live.
Cool.
Um, hey everybody, welcome to the JonTopofIt show. I am doing a Facebook room edition because my guest today, Ted Spealman, he is a IT consultant that is coming to us right now from San Francisco. So I'm obviously in Seattle, and through the magical power of the internet, we are still talking to each other. So,
Yeah.
hey, Ted, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, John. It's exciting to be talking to you about what I do. Hopefully demystifying it for some of my friends too.
So, yeah, what is it that you do?
So it's a good question. So my official job title is account executive at a company called SoftChoice. So what we do is we help our customers kind of navigate the world of technology. Our customers typically being within the IT part of an organization. So I'm primarily working with mid-market to enterprise customers, and helping them navigate trends, licensing models, contracts, and helping them kind of stay one step ahead of the curve and keeping their IT environments running.
Okay. And how did you get into this? It sounds, you know, it doesn't sound like something that like maybe you would have gone to school for specifically.
No, I went to Seattle U and I was in the business school there. So it just kind of came about. I had just left my old job, and I was looking for a new gig when I was in Seattle. And this came across. I was working with a recruiter, and just kind of took a chance on it. I heard a lot of good things about the culture and the people that work there. So I interviewed and I got the job, and I've been there for a little over 3.5 years. But it was just kind of an accident, and it turned out to be something I ended up being super passionate about. And I love the customers I work with. I love the technology that we sell and the things we do, and just love the industry as a whole. So it's kind of now turned into a what I want to do for the rest of my career, working in IT and technology.
Mm. And you loved it enough that you were willing to relocate to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Has that been something that you have preferred over Seattle, or is it just like a pros and cons thing? Like,
I mean, it's a that's I'm still kind of figuring that out. Right now I'm still very much in the honeymoon phase. I think with the city, I've been here down for a year,
okay,
and I absolutely love it. And just night and day. I'll go back up to Seattle and be like, I'm ready to go back to San Francisco. But I actually just spent the summer up in Washington with friends and family and stuff. Just since everyone's working remote right now, took that opportunity to get away, and it was nice to go back. But I'm happy to be back in the city.
yeah. I I enjoyed my time visiting San Francisco. I think it's a very vibrant city with lots of
Mhm.
things to do and lots of really interesting people.
Yeah,
Not without its problems, just like Seattle, but
right. Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's exciting to be in a place where so many tech startups are and people that are very intelligent trying to make things happen. So I get,
Yeah, it's a lot of really smart and driven people. A lot of people who are, really wanting to make the most out of their careers and things like that. So it's fun to just be it's fun to be in a city where everyone is going 110% all the time.
mhm.
Um, Everything moves pretty quick. People move pretty quick, and so it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of really interesting people, and it's like, well, I'm starting a startup doing this and this and that, and just a lot more than you see in Seattle. So it's been an interesting, I guess, an interesting adjustment, at least from pace, but also just kind of the people you meet on a day-to-day basis.
Mm. 110% though, it sounds exhausting. Like
It
maybe
can
like
be.
short term. Like I've worked in roles like full disclosure, like I used to work for Microsoft,
Mm,
and I the specific role that I was in, there were some weeks where we would put in 80 to 100 hours a week, and it was like in a schedule that like I accepted as like a pay my dues schedule. Like I'm going
mm.
to like make a good impression here, but like I don't know. I feel like it can be exhausting to keep that up
It
long term. What's your schedule like?
I mean, I work when my customers are working, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the people, the companies I'm working with, and things like that. So it kind of depends on what's going on with them and what they need and what they're kind of what we're working on together. So some days I'll get a few emails from customers. I'm mostly just working on other things or contacting them and chatting with them. And then some days I'm up at 7 a.m. with something that's going on, and I'm not done working for the day until it's complete. So I'm very much on their time. It's hard to, it's not something I can grind away on through the night because I am, there are business hours and working hours, but um, I'll see pockets outside of that. But I'm not usually working on weekends or anything like that, which is nice and uh, a little bit different than I know some of the people in the city.
Yeah. Well, is there like a typical day for you where I mean, I'm sure there are like um, certain like situations that happen occasionally, but like, what would you say for someone who has no familiarity with being an IT consultant? Like, what does that entail? Like, what are your role responsibilities, and like, how does that usually flow throughout the day?
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely varies based on, like I said, what I have going on.
Yeah.
For the most part, so a lot of my job is working in the field normally. So I'm going on site and visiting with customers and things like that. So the ideal day would be, um, uh, start my day off, go into the office for a little bit, and then head out to a meeting like before lunch, um, and then usually a meeting in the afternoon as well. And then just finding time to work and answer emails in between that and do kind of my normal day to day. Through as a result of working remote though, that's a little different. So I usually have meetings in the morning, and sometimes the days are pretty jam packed from start to finish with just meeting on meeting on meeting. So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of talking to customers on the phone or within Microsoft Teams or just conversing through email. So the typical day kind of varies a little bit, and it's mostly based on what I have scheduled out and stuff like that. But it also gives me the freedom to do stuff like this too, and be able to have a conversation with you and block out an hour or a couple hours in my day to chat.
Hmm. I mean, it's nice to have that kind of flexibility.
Mhm.
You could work from the moon.
Right. Yeah. I made a joke to my boss at the beginning of working remote. I was like, I think I'm gonna go spend a little time with my family at some point. He's like, you can go to Mexico if you want. Like, just do your work and get it done.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, like working for in the tech industry, the ability to work remote was already a possibility for pretty much everyone, and it just kind of came down to like the company culture, whether or not they allowed it. But I
Mhm.
think COVID has kind of forced everyone to like take another look at the possibility of everyone being able to work remote no matter what industry you're in. And so like
Yeah.
I think where I currently work, it's like yeah, some people did it, some people didn't,
Mhm.
and the attitude was kind of like if you can come in. Um, I don't know if that attitude is ever coming back because of COVID. I think a lot of people are getting a taste of what it's like to be able to like end a meeting and then like go play with their dog, and they're like, oh, like is this is a it's a tough sell to make me want to go back to the office now.
Completely, and that's something that is one of the trends that we're seeing is a lot of people are either figuring out how they can work remote forever or trying to come to a consensus on when they can bring back people back into the office.
Yeah.
Planning for that, like for instance, we're out. Um, we have no plan to return to the office this year, and then they're going to reevaluate next year. But the kind of running thought process is, when we find a vaccine or something like that, they'll kind of start reevaluating. That's a sliding scale, obviously, just since there's new developments and discoveries every day. So there's just nothing set in stone right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really seeing that across the industry too, and with the people I work with and the customers I work with and things like that too. So it's there's no answer to that. So you might be right. I don't think it'll ever be exactly the same as it was.
Yeah. I I I don't know. Um, the vaccine uh, is interesting to think about because like I think I just heard I think in the vice presidential debate last
Hmm.
night, was it 2 nights ago, they were saying over 50% of Americans would not get the vaccine if it was available today, which
Hmm.
is that's pretty high. That actually surprised me. I was like, really? But then I don't know if that's like related to like they think it's been fast tracked and it's not ready. But maybe by next year, more people will have confidence in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I mean, I'd certainly have a little bit of interrogation,
Reservations.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
like with something that might have been fast tracked or whatever. Um, but I mean, I think as long as it was proven safe,
Yeah.
uh, it would be a different conversation. But it's just, and until it's in front of me, I don't know how I'm gonna actually react to it. You know?
Yeah. I feel it's like getting like the first edition of like an iPhone or a PlayStation. It's like you get
Right.
the first one, you get all the bugs with it, like, except it's your life.
PlayStation's not gonna kill me if it doesn't work too well.
Yeah. I don't think so. Um, well, okay. So, um, in relation to COVID, how is that affecting? You said that one of the things you said to me is that companies that you are offering services to, they're having to adapt to this new normal. What do you mean by that?
So companies still trying to figure out a way, no matter what industry they're in, to keep their businesses going. Like I said, I'm working with mid-market to enterprise size customers, so it's people with a lot of money and a lot of business and a lot of customers that they need to keep going as well. And so a lot of those companies are service, they provide a service as well to keep more other companies or whatever afloat. So figuring out a way to make business still work while keeping people remote or dealing with any of the kind of unforeseen financial repercussions that could potentially be coming down the line. So one of my customers manufactures buses, right? Electric buses. So they're trying to figure out a way to make sure that they can keep the manufacturing open and then also make that as safe as possible, but also have their corporate staff still working remote, and just trying to adjust to those challenges of working outside of the office.
Mm.
So, I mean, you're working remote right now. It seems like to anyone that wasn't, I guess, watching how the sausage gets made like I am, it just seems like, oh, we have these new tools and they're working. But there's a lot of evaluation that goes into what tools your company's going to use, how
Hmm.
they're going to get there, and how they're going to buy them, and a lot of uncertainty, I guess, when this first started, whether if they didn't have a plan together already, figuring out how to do that effectively to the point where you can still do all of your jobs remote.
Can you give me an example of that? Like, are you saying? I mean, I'm trying to think in relation to where I work. Like maybe like they're trying to decide what team collaboration tool to use or something
Mhm.
like that.
Sure. I mean, so there's a lot that goes on behind the scene of a lot of the IT stuff that you use on a daily basis that I don't think people really know. So just even connecting to your, I guess, your work environment through a VPN um, is a whole process that has a lot of other processes, and trying to select the correct VPN for what you're doing, and trying to select make sure that that works in your environment and all the security protocols are still working together when you have people remotely connecting into the um, uh, to their home servers and things like that too. So there's a lot of both security concerns and technical challenges that go into making entire customer bases or user bases remote.
Hmm.
If that makes sense or answers that, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, it does make sense. Yeah. So I guess I just have been taking it for granted because it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Right.
It's like hey man, I just care that the light switch works.
Right,
I
right,
don't want to know what's going on behind. I mean, I am interested, but it's like I think in your day to day, you just like you flick it on.
right.
Yeah,
Like, does this work? Okay, it works. Does this not work? All right, I'm going to send a support ticket in.
yeah, for real. Um, so tell me about like, have there been any very memorable experiences that you've had working in this field that you could share with the viewers that are out there watching this that would make them uh, interested in learning more about IT consulting? Maybe they're considering it as a career path, or maybe you have any tips for them of what they should do.
I think if you're interested in it, there's tons of resources to explore and kind of things are that at least get me excited about it. So I'm always learning about new stuff. I have a few different blogs I read, trying to stay in on top of the new kind of the new latest and greatest. I'm always on Reddit on the various like subreddits for IT professionals and things like that. So it's trying to learn what my customers are really into. I'd say my most memorable, like kind of most memorable moment. I'd been working with a customer for a few months. This is and when I was still in Seattle, and we'd gotten to know them. I'd gotten to know them pretty well, and I went on site with them and really connected with them as people. And they mentioned something about they play Dungeons and Dragons as an IT team. I was like, oh yeah, I love Dungeons and Dragons. And they're like, do you want to come play with us? So I ended up at the IT director's house every other Tuesday playing Dungeons and Dragons with him and the rest of his team,
That's cool.
and getting to know them. And it was great because it led to a good relationship, both professionally and then outside of work as well. And it was just fun. You meet a lot of interesting people doing this job. I think anywhere where you have a customer relationships and people that you're working with, and they're trusting you with advice and guidance for what they're doing, uh, with spending a lot of money on.
Yeah.
They
Has that ever
also,
freaked you out?
yeah, yeah,
That you're like, oh man, the advice that I'm giving them is, impacting the millions and millions of dollars and spending. Like it's like a lot of responsibility.
yeah. When I'm working with a customer and helping them get, dot the T's and cross the I's on like a $1 million Microsoft contract that I've helped them, price out and guide them toward. There's always that kind of nagging feeling in the back of your head, like, man, I really hope that this is exactly what you guys need right now. But
Yeah.
I've been doing it long enough that I have a pretty good handle on that stuff, and we do have a lot of resources within our organization um, to help, I guess, guide that and double check that. But it's not a one man show, thankfully.
Hmm.
There's always that nagging feeling when you have enough, when it's a big enough project or a big enough purchase, that you're a little nervous going into it. But it's just confidence in knowing that what you're doing is the right thing
Mm.
for the customer.
Where do you see your career heading? Do you see yourself staying in this line of work long term? Do you see yourself moving into something kind of similar, or what? What do you think?
For now, yeah, I'd really like to stick to doing what I'm doing. Um, there's part of me that wants to move into something a little more technical, getting some more certifications, with like cloud or with either Azure or AWS or Google, and coming from a more like, I guess, like sales engineer kind of perspective,
Hmm.
and helping people design stuff out in the cloud and kind of help them set up environments and things like that. That's a long ways off, but right now I'm really enjoying what I'm doing and the kind of relationships I'm building and the technology that we're selling as it stands.
That's awesome. And I think it's good to be in a position where you feel that way, where you're like, I'm good for now.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a great place to be.
yeah.
Um, so Ted, like, what do you want to communicate out to viewers in this interview? Is there any like particular topic that you'd like to touch on that like we haven't yet? Is there any particular message you want to communicate?
I mean, I don't think there's any general message. I just think it was interesting to me moving into this field to learn. I didn't know what I didn't know, and then learning more and more about what kind of goes on behind the scenes. That's what really made it interesting to me. Kind of how all these things fit together within people's IT environments that make everything work within organizations,
Hmm.
and then taking that kind of the next logical step, how companies are dealing with remote work and kind of what some of the trends and things that we're seeing right now are. I think it's super interesting, and I know that I've talked to a few of my friends. I talked to a few of my friends about it, and they always think it's really interesting. So thought I'd share it with the world.
Yeah. Um, well, it's like, is there any other examples of like things that are going on behind the scenes that like the average cubicle worker out there is like, oh, what? Like, I didn't know that. That you'd
I,
want to share, or
I
I
think
don't know.
security. No, I mean it's I think it's interesting like how close to breaking everything always is,
Oh, really?
right?
That's
So
scary.
like you never know like things are held together by duct tape, I guess.
Mm.
And you don't really notice it if you're just a frontline worker, but if you peel a couple of layers back, it's like, well, we have this situation, we have this like and this hack together that's like making this work. Like, we're only halfway confident that it's going to work, and you're not going to lose everything at any given moment. But it's super interesting to kind of uh, like I said, peel back the onion a little bit and see what's going on behind the scenes.
That these companies are like more vulnerable than they seem like they would be.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you see glimpses of that, like when Target um, gets taken down through a vulnerability in their HVAC system, or the casino.
Wait, what happened to Target? I didn't hear about this.
This is a few years ago, but so Target got hacked a few years ago by a bad actor who got into their network by um, getting in through like an unprotected Wi-Fi receptor in their HVAC system.
Okay.
So that goes into like the whole discussion of like Internet of Things and how anything that connects to the internet is vulnerable.
It could be
Making,
exploited.
yeah, yeah. So there's another example of something similar. A casino had like a fish tank with a thermostat on it that connected to Wi-Fi, and someone was able to get in through their Wi-Fi. Um, and like hack into their system just because of one exposed like vulnerable port.
What do these people tend to do once they gain access to their network? What are they trying to do? Just to flex and be like, I did it, to brag to their friends, or like are they trying to like accomplish some kind of damage?
So I mean, in the instance of Target, they took a bunch of like credit card records,
Oh, that's not good.
yeah, personal data and stuff like that. So it's it's people who are phishing for personal data, credit card numbers, and stuff like that to then turn around and sell on the dark web.
Ooh. I wonder what the going rate is. I should look it up.
What is my identity worth?
Yeah, this is just for research purposes, FBI. I know that you listen through Facebook and all that, but I mean, I think the average person's pretty curious. Like, how much is my credit card information worth to like a, you know what they should do? I mean, this is not really ethical or anything, but like, if they could somehow find out, like, okay, we stole this credit card, and we also know like what their occupation is, and we can kind of like guess their credit limit. Right? And so it's like that credit card information that's stolen should be worth a little bit more than like someone who makes minimum wage, I guess.
Right. It's like you won't believe this. I got a doctor today.
Right. Like that should be worth a premium. Obviously, you're gonna be able to buy more with it, but I'm not advocating credit card fraud at all.
Yeah.
But
To the FBI guy watching this conversation, like
yeah.
it was all hypothetical.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what happened with Target. What happened with the fish tank at the casino? Which casino was it? Do you
I
remember?
I don't remember the full story, but I'm sure that it's the same kind of thing. They're just after personal records and people who stayed there and stuff like that, or have their name in the system in any way. I mean, that's all a lot of that stuff is um, and we see that a lot of this with like security being a huge focus for my job, um, and just kind of seeing most of the time, they're after personal information, credit cards, social security numbers, anything that can be used for uh, fraud and other kind of malicious things. And that's usually what you'll see people go after, unless it's like a ransomware attack or something like that.
Has anything like that ever happened to you?
Personally,
Yeah.
I had a credit card stolen once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, and it flagged it, and my card got shut down, and I had no idea what was going on. I went to the bank, and they recovered the money, and so it was only like a couple $100s, so it wasn't like the end of the world, but
Yeah.
it's still a frustrating process, and it's a little, it feels a little invasive, right?
Yeah.
A
I think
little,
I think I accidentally swiped a credit card at a gas station where they had one of those skimmers, like those little
yeah,
devices, and it's like back then I didn't know that you're supposed to like grab it and like shake it and make sure it's like actually part of the machine. But like nowadays, like with COVID, who wants to touch the gas
right,
machine? Like I don't want to touch it. Just the gas station, company needs to ensure that fraud is not being committed.
right,
I don't know. I've always wondered about stuff like that. Like maybe like the gas station clerk is in on it or something. Because how does that go? Like how does that end up being allowed? But I think that happened to me one time, and then I think another time I bought a mini disc player on eBay. And this guy, I don't know if this is fraud. This guy just had negative feedback, and I was like 13 years old and had no idea that you're not supposed to buy anything from anyone who has negative feedback. And I gave some guy like $400 in Australia and never saw that mini disc player. It was a sad day.
the beauty of PayPal and how how PayPal came about, right?
Yeah. What do
So
you
hmm?
What do you mean?
So I mean that was one of the big reasons that PayPal got to be such a big thing.
Mm,
So having another an independent company doing the transactions, and running everything through that, if there was an instance of fraud on eBay, and it was specifically developed for eBay, having that as a kind of fallback to be able to recover your money.
yeah. Well,
So
I'm pretty sure I paid him through PayPal, but at the time, I think it wasn't done in such a way where they could get the money back. I think it was back in PayPal's infancy.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is back when mini disc players were worth $400. I'll never forget buying it. I specifically bought it because I wanted to skate like at a skate park and go up ramps and grind rails and not have my CD player at the time. The CD player would like skip when upon impact. The music
Yep.
would skip, and the selling point for a mini disc player is that there would be no skipping. And so, not only did I throw $400 away because this guy stole it, but then like a month later, to add insult to injury, like the MP3 player came out, and then it's like no one gives a shit about mini disc players anymore anyway. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I guess it's fine. I didn't want that mini disc player anyway. Sorry that this interview is divulged into a conversation about mini disc players, but
Hey man, someone's got to talk about it.
yeah. I got something to say, and it's about mini disc players. Back in my day, we had little CDs, and they could hold 60 whole minutes of music. Actually, I think they could hold more than that. What's that?
It is crazy how far technology's come in like not that long.
Uh, yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know. The stuff that's really freaking me out is Neuralink. Have you been keeping up with what Elon Musk is doing with they're putting like computer chips in the
Yeah.
heads of pigs, and they're like they're like reading the pig's brain and like trying to find ways to like control the pig and send signals to the pig so that it'll do certain things. And oh my God. I think it's scary because it's like an omen. It's an omen on the wall. It's like the beginning of something crazy, like really crazy.
I don't know how far. Do you know how far off they are until like that's actually like a viable, I guess, viable thing for people?
I don't
Sure.
know, but I mean, it feels like it was only 5 years ago that people were saying self-driving cars are never going to be a thing. And then it's like, look, they're everywhere and they're already like being used, like kind of, I don't know how legal it is because you're supposed to keep your hands on the wheel, but I know a lot of people that are like drinking coffee and shaving and texting and their cars driving them unofficially. Like they're not supposed to be doing it, but people are doing it now.
Yeah, and that's really interesting too. I mean, living in San Francisco, there's a ton of people that are working on kind of the next step to that and making like fully autonomous cars. So you have like Aurora Innovations, Argo over in Pittsburgh, Waymo, all these companies, and you see all these like self-driving cars in training, driving around, taking pictures and taking video and learning the cityscape and kind of training them to training them to drive.
Yeah.
So it's something that was new when I came down here. All these cars with cameras strapped to them that said like self-driving car in training. And they're everywhere. And I think this technology is coming sooner than we think. My roommate actually works for one of those companies.
Oh.
And he's a recruiter and recruiting some of the top minds in the industry to come do that stuff. So it sounds like the industry is developing a lot faster than I think we think. And we're like autonomous cars and trucks especially, are not too far out for like normal everyday stuff.
And I think it's interesting that like the pushback that I've heard in the media is like, well, what happens when a self-driving car kills somebody? That's going to be the end of it. And it's like, well, it's already like hundreds of thousands of people are killed every year by a human operated car. And it's like, where's the outrage for that? Like if we can somehow reduce that number even by one, it's probably we're trending in the right direction. But then I remember hearing somebody say something like right now people fear self-driving cars, but in the future people will fear human-driven cars, right? Because humans are going to be seen as more likely statistically to produce an error that could result in a crash, which is probably true. Like a machine is always going to be better than a human. Right. In most things that I would surmise. I mean, what do you think?
I think that's accurate. It's just hard. It's hard to imagine a world where we don't have control over our vehicles.
Yeah.
And for right now, it is scary. But at the same time, there's plenty of things that I'd rather trust a robot to do than a person at this point, I think.
Well, I mean, we would have control over the car in the sense that, like, you could take manual control over, I guess, if you needed to. I think that's what would pacify most people out there that are afraid. I think maybe they just ignorant on the concept and they just think that the car is going to drive them everywhere and they're just going to be powerless. They're just going to be in the back seat, like in prison waiting to get to work or something. Like you'll still probably be able to like just hold a wheel and be like, nope, I don't like what you're doing, or stop, hit the brakes.
Yeah, I think that would have to be a kind of important thing with that to keep people, or at least to ease people into it. And then who knows, 50 years later, you'd be like, oh man, my grandpa still puts his hands on the wheel. He's so old.
Yeah. Back in my day, we used to do this thing called texting and driving, and it was highly illegal, but everyone did it. You'd look left, you'd look right. Every car, someone was on their smartphone and driving. Everyone knew it was dangerous, and nobody cared. That's going to be what old people are going to be saying. But I think an interesting aspect about the self-driving car thing is like what it means for traffic, that you don't have to own a car anymore. If you can get picked up by a self-driving car and it takes you to work, why do you need a car in a parking lot for 8 hours? Like, it could be off picking up other people running other errands. Like, you've basically created public transit in 5-seater public transit times a million for your city. And like the concept of like parking garages and parking lots and parking spaces, like all of that is suddenly become less relevant,
Mhm.
if irrelevant altogether. And I think it'd probably have a positive impact on traffic and yeah, interesting to think about.
I've heard people talk about that before, and how you no longer really own you would no longer really own your car, but in the sense that you wouldn't really need one if you just had, like you said, you could hail a ride like you would a Lyft, um, to come and get you, and just take you to wherever, and then it zips off. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the kind of final evolution of that. Plus, it'd be better for the environment, better for um, congestion, and overall, I think a positive step for humanity. But
Yeah,
I guess that's, like I said, that's kind of the logical conclusion to self-driving and electric cars, and things like that.
yeah. So here's a question. I'm thinking of some questions to ask you. As an
Yeah.
IT consultant, do you ever find yourself acting as a consultant in your personal life?
Yes. Yeah, yes, very much so. So, I mean, friends and family, and just even like what I'm doing, um, it, talking to them about what they should be doing, and how they what products they should be buying, or scaring the bejesus out of them with security stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
mostly scaring the bejesus out of people with security stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you
and just
advocate for like certain browsers or antivirus software? Like, what do you mean when you say trying to scare them?
I mean, I think everyone should be using a VPN.
A
Like,
VPN.
yeah,
And
like
is the reason is because everything is monitored by the NSA?
no, I mean, so you can use a VPN um, uh, to subvert bad actors as well. So if people can't get a lock on your IP or your connection, it's harder to get into your computer, right? So having a fake IP address makes it harder to um, for someone on the internet to get into your machine,
Mm,
and get access to your personal data, or whatever's on your computer. Um, and then beyond that, having an antiviral on your computer, and doing everything you can to kind of look for signs of like phishing, or any kind of malicious things that are coming toward your computer.
yeah.
But a lot of that starts with hooking up a VPN, and making sure you have some kind of AV software installed on your computer. Um,
Well, doesn't
but
Windows 10 has built-in antivirus software?
mhm.
And I think that's probably sufficient, right? Like I've always had kind of an issue with Norton and those types of companies only because I've read articles and like Reddit users, they've reported that like people at those companies, some of them like create the problem themselves. Like they'll create viruses that then they can like get rid of. And I'm like, I don't like that system. Like I don't like that. I mean, obviously if the tool is helping people, it's helping people, but it's kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of dirty. But um, I guess if you have Windows 10, it's constantly updating its dictionary and scanning your system.
Yeah, and Microsoft has been really um, making a lot of developments in their security platform. It used to be that you had Windows, so at an enterprise level specifically, um, you had your Windows software, um, and then you had to find another AV product on top of that, just because whatever Microsoft was using may not have really fit the bill for actually protecting your computer. But in the last few years, Microsoft has really stepped up, and has started putting out some really solid products, that they can just kind of bundle and combine with the rest of their enterprise software, that customers can combine with the rest of their enterprise software, and create a kind of full environment just out of their Microsoft licensing without having to um, look elsewhere, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
I have been pretty impressed with a lot of things Microsoft has been doing lately. I actually just saw today somebody was taking apart a PS5, a Sony
Mhm.
PS5, and an Xbox Series X, and they were showing like what the process looks like to upgrade the hard drive if you want like additional storage for games and things like that. And they were showing like, oh, for a Sony PS5, you have to unscrew the bottom and find the port and plug in an SSD, and like there's this whole like it's probably like 5 or 6 steps. And then like for the Xbox Series X, there's literally just like a port in the back and you just plug in, you just push it in. It's it.
Yeah.
It's like perfect. And it's like, I mean, it's like, it's a small thing, but I think probably listening to the feedback of their users and like incorporating that into the things that the decision making is making a big difference in how that company is being more positively received by the marketplace.
Yeah, Apple versus Windows, right? Or Apple versus Microsoft too. It's a lot easier to upgrade hardware on a Windows machine 9 times out of 10 than it is.
Don't get me started. Oh my god. So I used to work. I worked at the Apple Store. I was a big fan in my early 20s, and um I even was I built one of those Hackintoshes. Are you familiar with that concept? It's basically a computer that you build, but then you install a Macintosh operating system on top of that, and there's like a whole community of people on the internet that are all about doing that because it's like a third of the price of buying like an official metal titanium box from the Apple Store. It's like a $6,000 desktop at the Mac store is like $1,500 in computer parts. So a lot of people were doing that. Anyway, I used that for video production, and that was fine with like Final Cut Pro. But then like I was a fan of the iPhone for a while, but I just didn't like a lot of the business practices that surrounded that I think became more apparent to me, like not being able to remove your battery. So like when your battery dies, the phone's kaput. Or like when a new phone would come out, they would release like battery like draining software, or like they would push something. I don't know. They would put something in the software so that your battery drained quicker, or something in the software so your phone ran slower. Just like I don't know. It's just felt kind of diabolical, like little things like that, and it started to bother me that I was helping to fund a company that did things like that. But I mean, I don't know if, to be fair, I don't know if Samsung is really above any of those things anymore either.
Yeah, I mean, planned obsolescence is like that's a good thing, right? With a lot of like Apple computers, it's like, well, yeah, after a year and a half with my phone, it stops like it's not as fast, and it's not there shouldn't be any reason why it's slowed down so much. Um, and then to have the latest and greatest come out, it's like, oh, those issues you're having with your phone, if you buy the new one, they're all going to go away. Like everything's so much better. So
Yeah,
I mean,
they're just going to when they say they're all going to go away, they mean like the features of the phone, like the aux port. It's like they're literally going to take things away and then sell them back to you for $50. But I tell you, Ted, my favorite thing about my phone, I had a Galaxy S4. My favorite thing about this phone is that you could take when the battery died, you took the back of it off and you took the battery out and popped a new one in, and I would carry like 2 spare batteries in my backpack, and I just knew I felt 100% confident that I could use my phone nonstop all day, all night, and not have to worry about finding like an AC port to charge it. And those days are gone, and I hate that. Like, why can't I mean, I know the reason. It's because these companies, they want you to buy a new phone instead of replace your battery when the battery loses its juice, right? I hate planned obsolescence. I hate it.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I didn't realize that Samsung had, or all the, I guess the Android phones had done away with that too. Because I did the same thing. I had a BlackBerry a long time ago,
Ooh.
I just carried another battery around with me, and it would die, and just pop it in, and we're good to go.
I miss that. I miss those days. I mean, but it's planned obsolescence. It's the same reason you can go to like your local Goodwill or Salvation Army and find a blender from the 1950s and it still works. But if you buy a blender off of Amazon, it's like within 6 months it's gonna kaput and smoke will come out.
Right.
It's like they don't want it to last. They want us to keep consuming. It's
Right.
yeah.
So something, I mean, it's interesting to I guess tie back to my job and profession and stuff. One thing you will see people doing um, is just buying new batteries for laptops, right? So
Hmm.
you'll have a laptop and the battery will eventually die, but you can typically buy replacement batteries for them. So there's actually a pretty large market. I had a few customers. They would like most companies work on about a 3-year refresh cycle for laptops. So they'll buy laptops and keep them in service for 3 years, and then refresh them after that. But some people just keep them around a little longer than that and just pop new batteries on them for a little bit, assuming that the rest of the hardware still worked. And so I think that's one way I think that Windows-based laptops are staying ahead of that a little bit. I mean, there's still a degree of I guess planned obsolescence in some of that, but um, it's a little more accessible because you can still upgrade your RAM, you can still upgrade your SSD drives, and you can upgrade or replace batteries and stuff if your computer is slowing down. Um, so I think that's an interesting way that I think at least computer manufacturers or people that make laptops and desktops um, have stayed away from that a little bit more than like your phone companies or something that's a little more.
Why
I
do
don't
you
want
th-
to be
Why do you
disposable.
think that is?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think Windows has always been kind of this like free for all, right? I mean, not so much like Linux, but like Windows machines are usually the ones that are customizable, and so I don't think they don't have the same kind of want to get away from that to still be, that's kind of the leg up on Apple a lot of the times is just like how many different things you can use with a Windows laptop, and how many different programs, and there's no, anyone can make a program for Windows. Again, it's not like Linux where it's like truly the Wild West, but like it's still like there's some element of control over it,
Yeah.
and I think it's less like I don't want to say disposable, but your phones are definitely a little bit more disposable um, than a computer or a laptop might be.
Yeah, I just, but I feel like it didn't used to be that way.
No,
Or it didn't, customers didn't used to perceive it that way. Like, I don't know, I had a phone, I probably must have kept it like 6 or 7 years at one point, like an old Nokia.
yeah. I mean, those are indestructible as it is. It probably still works.
Oh, what phone did I had what is it? A Razor. Who makes that phone? I forget.
Motorola.
Motorola Razor. That was a great phone. And then I had the phone with the keyboard. The oh my
The
god,
LG.
this is killing me. Uh,
The Sidekick.
yes, the Sidekick. Oh yeah, I think I think the Sidekick was my favorite non-touchscreen phone. It wasn't even the keyboard. It was the fact that I could like press on the screen and it would flip open.
Yeah.
And so I had it down to where like as I pressed down on the screen, I'd throw the phone in the air and it would like spin in the air as it was opening and then I'd catch it and people would be like,
Those are one of the cool phones to have too. Like, yeah, like the Razor was like the cool phone that came out because it was just something other than like a Nokia. And then you
well,
had the
well, and the great thing about the Razor is like when you're angry at somebody and you want to hang up, you can slam it. It's like what you can't. What are you supposed to do with this? You can't slam it shut. Oh well, they
Razor.
have these phones coming out now that are touchscreen that there's two of them, right? That it folds up. But if you slam that together, you might waste a $2,000 phone. I don't know if you want to do that.
It's a little hard to like angrily hang up on someone with a
Yeah.
one of these.
Someone should invent an app. There, it probably already exists. Some kind of app that it's like the angry hang up app. And so like when you're pissed at somebody, you open up the angry hang up app and you press a button, and not only does it hang up on the person you're talking to, but it also adds in that sound that's like just like that hang up sound. Just so they can really feel the impact of like, what they've done.
That's not an idea. I mean, I live in San Francisco. I could probably find someone to build it.
Okay. I'll be an angel investor in that idea. Well, Ted, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me about IT consulting and sharing what you do and how it's been going during COVID and all that. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we call it quits?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of some. I mean, there's some interesting stuff. Like, I think just to kind of sum it up, like, there's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and like, um, it's just always, it's like I said, it's been fascinating to me to help customers through these journeys and embracing new technologies that they might have not thought of before. So that's another thing that's like we're seeing a lot of right now is customers speeding up their timelines with adopting new technology, just to kind of accommodate their environments, right? So they didn't know that they needed a virtual meeting system that was like that could work all the time. A lot of companies are still pretty old school, believe it or not, as far as the way that they meet and the way that they collaborate. So
what do they use?
I mean, they'll still be using Skype or whatever, and they don't have the same kind of conferencing systems or whatnot. Helping them kind of find the step and trying to help them figure out how to license it, how to buy it, and what the best thing for them is. So it's really interesting to see, and you also I guess you also get an idea of where people are lagging behind in the industry. Before this, we thought that like cloud adoption was like the new big thing. Cloud adoption and like DevOps and stuff like that were kind of the thing. And then we kind of stripped it back to basics here, and we're figuring out that like people are like, we have no way to connect people to our internal software if they're not working, if they're working remote. So helping people figure all that stuff out. And it's just interesting because you're really, I mean, I've said this a million times, but really kind of peeling the onion back on the industry and people's environments and figuring out where the gaps are. And that's been a lot of my job, is helping customers identify those gaps and figure out how to move them into a new space in a way that's like not only cost effective, but also like the easiest thing for them to do for their environment.
Well, that sounds like it's a really valuable service that you offer to these companies that are a lot of times just kind of lost and looking to you for help.
Yeah, I like to think so. I mean, that's one of those. It's something I can, at the end of the day, I'm kind of just a technology sales guy, right? But like, I enjoy that at the end of the day, I'm helping my customers move toward a more stable environment and helping them help their end users and things like that. So I always feel good about what I'm doing and what I'm selling and the way I'm helping my customers and helping them look good within their own organizations and stuff too. So definitely it's nice to have a sales job where I don't feel like a used car salesman.
Yeah. Where like you feel like you're providing value and not just pushing a junker on someone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, mostly, I maintain these relationships, and they're people that I, get close to and have, a real relationship with, just outside of like trying to sell them something. You get to know them. You get to know about what they're doing for vacations, their hobbies and interests, and
who they like to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
as.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, what character they play as. Yeah.
Right. I was a wizard. But I mean, it's interesting. That's I'm a very relationship based person, I guess, and also a pretty values driven person too. So being able to kind of put those together in a sales role and help people out with their lives and with their jobs, just makes it makes it all rewarding, and helps make it a fun career for me.
That's awesome. So, if there's anybody out there that potentially could be interested in your consulting,
Yeah.
is there a way that they can reach out to you?
Yep. I mean, I'm on Facebook. That'd probably be a good way. We can toss up an email address or something in here.
Let's see.
Is there a chat window?
Yeah, what is your...
Just first name, so Spialman.ted@gmail.com.
Oh. Like that? Can you see that?
Where's that coming up at?
I don't know. I'm terrible at this. Wait. I got it. Hold on. Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So email this man right there.
I'm happy to help you out and chat and whatever. Because like I said, I'm super passionate about this, and I could talk ad nauseum about what I do and get into the weeds pretty deep. A lot of it can be a little boring, so I don't want to. I mean, John, I could sit here and talk to you for hours, but I think that would get boring for you and the people too.
I mean, personally, I would love to just chat and shoot the shit, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm a new father and I have a baby.
That's right.
That I'm constantly negotiating free time with my wife. I'm saying like, oh, well, just give me this amount of time to talk to Ted Spealman. I mean, I gotta get this interview in. She's like, all right, fine. But it's a give and take
Right.
kind of thing. But I will take the email address and also post it in the comment section for the video. And if there's any other like links you want to provide down there, if people want to get in touch with you, we can do that.
Okay.
But I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I hope that you continue to love San Francisco, and if I ever come out there, I'll come visit you.
Yeah, look me up. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
You can see this weird and beautiful city.
I think one of the memories I have of visiting San Francisco by car is I remember driving in and seeing that there was like a toll that was like $11 just to cross a bridge, and I was like, what the $11 just to drive over this bridge?
Yeah, you have to spend money anytime you leave or enter the city, you have to pay money.
Yeah.
With the exception of like driving up north across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Uh-huh.
But you still got to get back into the city somehow, unless you're planning on going like way around down to San Jose and coming back up.
Which no one probably does, yeah.
They get you coming and going.
Yeah. Just wait, they're going to have an oxygen task soon. Well, you know what they're talking about doing in Seattle is they're trying to do a pay per mile tax where like you pay taxes to the city based on how many miles you drive. They're going to try to figure out how can we monitor car usage.
Interesting.
That's a thing that's coming.
If you live downtown, it's not like you're driving more than a mile or two at a time anyway. But I think the traffic is really what gets you there. Like when I lived in Seattle, my office was maybe a mile and a half from my apartment, but it would take me 45 minutes to get home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So like, you can charge me for the mile, like sure, but I mean, I'm doing a lot more damage, I think, with that 45 minutes stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
So
I feel like a lot of things get me in this city besides traffic, but yeah. But it's okay. I mean, there's pros and cons to living anywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, thank you so much for having me on, John. I really appreciate it. It was fun to talk about this, and yeah, like you said, hit me up on my email address. I'm happy to have a conversation and get someone else excited about kind of the stuff I'm doing. And then if you have anything else or follow-ups or anything you just like, you're just like, well, how does that work? Just feel free to shoot me a message or whatever, and we can continue our conversation at some point.
Yeah, Ted knows the answer.
All right, thanks, John.
All right, take care.
Appreciate it.